It was supposed to be just another morning, a routine visit to the family home, a few quiet hours spent with loved ones. But by the time the sun had risen, everything had changed. February 19, 2025, would mark the beginning of a tragedy no one could have foreseen. And the details? They just don't add up. A life once filled with adventure, dreams, and success, shattered in an instant. But what followed was even more unsettling as law enforcement found themselves grappling with questions that had no clear answers. At the center of it all was a man once admired for his accomplishments, his passion for the environment, and his seemingly perfect marriage. Now he stood at the heart of a darkness too profound to ignore. And here's where it gets even more disturbing, because the deeper we dig, the stranger it becomes. What drove Samuel to flee the scene of a family tragedy? What role did his mother, Dorothy, play in this nightmare? And how did everything spiral out of control so quickly, leaving behind only chaos and uncertainty? With every new detail, the mystery pulls us further in. And by the time we reach the end, one thing will be clear. Sometimes, even the most perfect lives can conceal the most unsettling truths. But before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank you, my incredible viewers and subscribers, for your support. Your likes, shares, and comments help bring these stories to life. And if you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts. Now, let's begin. Samuel Whitmore wasn't just any ordinary 34-year-old. His resume read like a dream for anyone in the tech world. With a degree from MIT, Samuel had worked for SpaceX, one of the most groundbreaking companies in aerospace technology. At SpaceX, he wasn't just doing a job, he was contributing to a future where space exploration wasn't just a dream, it was becoming a reality. Samuel had helped design and engineer systems that made space travel more efficient. His professional achievements were significant, but there was much more to him than just a brilliant mind in the field of engineering. Outside of his work, Samuel's passion for adventure was clear. A sailor. At heart, he wasn't just navigating oceans, he was navigating the world. His LinkedIn profile called him a passionate engineer and sailor, and it wasn't just an empty title. Samuel had actually captained a 50-foot sailboat sailing across the Pacific Ocean. His travels were more than just vacation, they were part of his deep connection to the environment. Samuel was an advocate for coral reef restoration, working with organizations dedicated to preserving marine life and protecting the ecosystems that were so vital to our planet's health. It was clear that Samuel wasn't just about professional success. He was about making a difference in the world, whether through his engineering work or his commitment to the environment. Then there was Margot, his wife, who shared his love for the world beyond the ordinary. Margot Whitmore, 32, was an accomplished professional in her own right. A graduate in communications and marketing, she was also a yoga instructor, a woman whose grace seemed to transcend her profession. But like Samuel, Margot's true passion lay in experiencing life to the fullest. Her Instagram was a visual diary of their shared adventures, breathtaking landscapes from countries they visited, intimate moments from their travels together, in the kind of relationship that many envied. To anyone who looked at their online life, it seemed as though they had everything: love, adventure, and a future full of promise. The couple's story seemed like the definition of a fairy tale romance. They met in 2021, their bond instant and their connection undeniable. Just 3 years later, they married in a private ceremony by a peaceful Maine lake in September 2024. It was intimate, just a handful of loved ones, a quiet celebration of their love and the life they had ahead. Their marriage was new, still in the blissful early days. Together they'd explored the world, a duo bound by shared passions and mutual respect. But sometimes the happiest stories are the most fragile. Just months into their marriage, everything would change. The same perfect life that Samuel and Margot had built together would soon face a reality they could never have anticipated. Was February 19, 2025, a Wednesday morning that seemed like any other. At precisely 10:02 a.m., emergency responders in Redfield, Maine, received a call from a residence on Giles Road. The voice on the other end was frantic, but the details were vague. An incident had occurred, the caller said, but it wasn't clear what had happened. All that was certain was that something had gone horribly wrong at the Whitmore family home. The call was brief, but the urgency in the caller's tone was unmistakable. It was enough to send first responders rushing to the scene. Within moments, they arrived at the quiet, suburban neighborhood. What they discovered in the Whitmore's driveway would be nothing short of shocking. Outside the house, the body of 32-year-old Margot Whitmore was found, lying on the cold ground. She was unclothed, her body still and unresponsive in the daylight. But inside the house, Dorothy Whitmore, Samuel's 67-year-old mother, was found with severe injuries. The paramedics quickly assessed her condition and rushed her to the hospital. Initially, she was listed as being in critical condition. The gravity of her injuries only deepened the mystery of what had occurred in those early morning hours. Her condition, however, would later show signs of improvement, offering a sliver of hope in the otherwise bleak situation. But there was something else that immediately caught the attention of the authorities. Samuel Whitmore, the man at the center of it all, was nowhere to be found. His father wasn't home at the time of the incident, but he arrived shortly after. By then, the chaos had already begun to unfold. No one knew exactly what had transpired, but the fact that Samuel was gone only added to the confusion. He had fled the scene, leaving his family to grapple with the aftermath of something unspeakable. The scene in Redfield would become the starting point of a lengthy investigation, one that would slowly uncover details that no one could have anticipated. But for now, the police had more questions and a growing sense that whatever had happened here, it was far from ordinary. But Samuel Whitmore didn't get far. Just a short distance from the home, Samuel's flight came to an abrupt halt. A state trooper on routine patrol was quick to spot him. Wasn't long before the trooper apprehended him. There was no resistance, no struggle. Samuel, who had been so elusive just moments before, was now in the custody of the law. His arrest was calm, almost surreal given the intensity of what had just unfolded. After being taken into custody, Samuel was transported to the nearest hospital for a mental health evaluation. The authorities needed to assess his state of mind. Had he been in a clear enough state to make his own decisions? Was there something else? Something that had clouded his judgment and led to the events of that morning? Soon after the evaluation, Samuel was booked into Kennebec County Jail, where he would remain without bail. The details of the incident, however, were still few and far between. Law enforcement wasn't ready to divulge much to the public. The silence only added to the uncertainty hanging over the case. The community, already shaken by the tragedy, was left with more questions than answers. Was it a sudden breakdown? Was there a long, simmering issue that no one could see coming? Authorities were still piecing together the sequence of events, but they knew one thing for certain: this wasn't the man anyone had expected to be at the center of such a chaotic and tragic scene. The investigation was just beginning, but already questions were mounting. Authorities knew that to piece together the tragic events of that morning, they would need more than just eyewitness accounts. They needed hard evidence, forensic details that could provide clarity where confusion reigned. So, on February 20th, just a day after the events unfolded, the chief medical examiner conducted an autopsy on Margot Whitmore's body. It was a critical moment in the investigation, as this would give them a clearer picture of what had transpired on that seemingly normal Wednesday morning in Redfield. While the official cause of Margot's death remained under wraps, the medical examiner did confirm that her death was a homicide. This in itself was an important step, but the exact manner of her death, that remained a mystery. Was there a weapon involved? Was it something more personal, more intimate? The authorities were keeping those details close to the chest, because the investigation is still ongoing. The lack of information only deepened the mystery, fueling the already growing curiosity in the community and the public at large. Simultaneously, investigators turned their attention to Dorothy Whitmore, Samuel's 67-year-old mother. Dorothy had been rushed to Central Maine Medical Center in critical condition, and in the days that followed, it was reported that her health had significantly improved. though it was a small piece of good news. In the midst of the tragedy, the family's ordeal was far from over. The toll on Dorothy was not just physical. The emotional and psychological effects were undeniable. To witness a son involved in such a violent episode, one that left his wife dead and herself critically injured, was unimaginable. Dorothy's recovery wasn't just a matter of healing from her injuries, it was about grappling with the horror of what had unfolded in her own home. The days following Whitmore's arrest brought a new layer of complexity to the case. On February 21, 2025, his legal team raised a significant concern: Samuel's mental competency. His defense lawyers argued that he was unable to fully engage in his defense due to his mental state. The court, in response to these concerns, ordered a full mental health evaluation before any further legal proceedings could move forward. But since this case is still in its early stages, not much information has been released at this time. The trial date has not yet been set and details are still emerging as the investigation continues. As the authorities uncover more facts and progress with the case, we will make sure to update you with the latest developments. Stay tuned for more as we follow this case closely. And that brings us to the end of this case, a story so disturbing that it leaves us wondering what could have led a person to act in such a way. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments below.